Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So in the last episode, um, what I've done was to create a simple LWC component. If you remember that I created a tiny component which does two operation. That's add and subtract. And then I talked about the HTML file. So today what I'm going to do, I wanted to show you how you can test it and deploy it. That's pretty simple. Um, so now, when you wanted to deploy an LWC component, right, you need to specify the target, right? It could be a flow screen, it could be a record page, it could be somewhere else. Okay. So in this case, what I wanted to do, I wanted to specify, hey, I want this to be deployed on the record page, right? I'm not concerned about the flow at this stage, but we're going to talk about the flow. Okay. So now, where will you define the target path, right? So to define a target path, you have something called meta.xml. Okay, this is where you normally define your target path. So here you will have it's a simple XML syntax, right? And API version, whichever API version you're using, is exposed. Would you like to expose this LWC so that wherever you want it to use, it can be viewed and used, right? And the master label, the name of your component, and the description of what this component is about, right? So this will uh, add and subtract two numbers. I mean, just give you a meaningful description, right? Then the target. So this is a syntax you normally use, the lightning underscore record page. This is where you're targeting. And then you have to specify the target config, right? So obviously, you need to specify property. So in this case, I'm saying, hey, I'm getting a record ID. So assuming that, you will be using this on a detailed record page, right? So when you use a record page, it expects a record ID so that it can grab the record ID and do whatever it wants to do. In our case, we're not making use of record ID for anything, but in the future session, I'll show you how this record ID can be leveraged, right? So that's pretty much it when it comes to config side, right? So like I said, I wanted to deploy this to on a record page, not on the Lightning page. Not on a flow screen. If you wanted to use this on a flow screen, you'll just mention Lightning underscore whatever the flow or something, right? There is a setting which is given to us by Salesforce, so you can use that option to determine whether you wanted to use it on the record page on the flow, right? So yeah, and then once that's done, hopefully your Visual Studio Code is connected to your org, and you just go here and just right click, and I'll say deploy source to an org, yeah, and it's running a deployment. So that's using an IDE, but in the real life scenario, you might be using CI/CD to do that, right? So that's deployed. So now we got this component installed in our org. Now we may need to make sure that we can use it. Okay. All right. So we go to org, right? So what I'll do, I'll just for the sake of demo, I'll just grab this that component and drop it on somewhere here. Okay. That's pretty much what I want to do. I don't want it to get into the fancy nitty gritty stuff, right? At this stage, yeah, we can talk about the fancy look and feel the later part of the series, but for now, I just want to know that you guys are getting what I'm trying to say, right? Just to understand the basic concept, how to deploy it, one step at a time, right? So that anyone can learn it, and then we talk about advanced stuff. Okay, so I wanted to grab that LWC and put it here. So to do that, go to this tic-tac-toe icon. I'll go to edit page. Under edit page, right? It's gonna take a while to load um, because it's trying to render this page, right? So, okay. Now what I'll do, I will go here under the component section. I'll look for my LWC component. So if you come here, the my LWC component, so that's why I often tell people that whenever you write a description, make sure it's meaningful one, right? So that it's easy for you to find it. If you put X, Y, Z or 1, 2, 3, you might get confused, right? Just give a meaningful name relevant to that component. Okay, so that's done. So I'll drag this boy here. I'll drop somewhere here, right? Okay, that's cool. Okay, I can see the preview. It looks okay, not bad. Don't worry about the styling. Don't worry about the margin at this stage. We're not talking about CSS at this stage, right? So I copied here. Just wanted to see if the functionality works. Yeah. Okay. So we got this, decent looking app here. So I'll just put one. I'll put two. Select an option I want to add. Obviously, 1 + 2 is 3. Oh yeah, you got 3. Okay. Now I'll choose subtract and I'll do submit. 1 minus 2 is -1, which is great. Okay. Now if you try to end, now it will enter a valid value, right? So valid value is 1, because remember we specified the type. Now if you do this, add, submit. Now from a user perspective, right? User won't know what is add, what is subtract. You can change the label if you want, or by going to that option setting. Okay, let's say user say, hey, I wanted to add multiplication as well. Okay, so how do you do that? It's pretty simple. Go back to the code, like an enhancement, right? So you go here, and what I will do here, copy here, and I will say mult. Okay, I will say mult, and I'll put a comma here. Okay, and I will go here, and it's not really a great way to do this the way I'm doing, because um, I'm doing a lot of if and else, right? But that's okay for now. You could extract this logic and put into separate method. We worry about that later. Okay. So what I've done, if the user press multiplication, you will get, at mult. Okay. So what I'll do, I will deploy this source to an org. Let's see if I can deploy this. Okay, that's deployed, right? Now let me refresh this boy here. Okay, so what I'll do, let's see the option. No, we don't have it. Okay, so which is weird. Sometimes it does. Okay, let me save it. Okay, and what I'll do, I will deploy the source to an org, and because it's still using an old version. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll copy and I'll go back to accounts, and I'll go to Edge Communication. Okay, for some reason it is not refreshing, which is not great, but what I'll do, let's do this. Okay, let's say I move this one from here, and I'll move it, say, bottom of the page. Okay, I moved it to the bottom of the page. Let's say if it moved. Activation. I mean, it's funny though. Usually you don't really have to do this, but for some reason. Okay, so move down. Okay, now you can see the value here, right? Okay, so what I'll do 1, I'll say 3. So if I say multiplication, it should say 3. If I put 2, 2 times 3, it should say 6. So yeah, that's pretty simple, right? You can do something this way. This is, I do understand, right? This is a pretty basic example. But I just wanted to teach you guys a simple concept, right? How to use HTML tags specific to Salesforce, and how to write event code in JavaScript, and how to deploy the project. This is a very basic, primitive component I built. Adds no value, right? It just add, subtract. That's pretty much it. So going forward, we're going to look at how to use the write function, how to write an Apex controller so that you can use that code inside your LWC, and how you can use external service to grab a data and then pass the data to LWC inside a flow to, to display a tiny bit of information. That kind of stuff, we're going to look at it. Things are going to get more exciting. So yeah, stay tuned. And then one more thing, once I've decided that I've covered enough, then I'm going to start looking into design patterns, right? To show you how you can write, different things like observable pattern. Though observable pattern is pretty commonly used if you wanted to, if you wanted to do the Lightning messaging system, right? If you have, different like Visual Force page or a component, then you wanted to broadcast information. So we'll look into that kind of things, right? So, yeah. So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Thursday. Adios.